What's the national perception of Florida State football, and how will that impact Florida State's ability to join the Big Ten or SEC?
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money and use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. We're going to be talking Noles football in conjunction with fans that are not Florida State fans, and what they would think if they joined their league, meaning what would a Wisconsin fan or a Penn State fan, a Michigan fan think if Florida State joined? You might be thinking, well, what's that got to do with anything? The answer is everything. Money matters. Eyeballs matters. Advertisers, whether we like it or not, control college football. If they think Florida State has a brand that's on the rise, they can add something special to the league, whether it's Big Ten, SEC, what have you. That makes Florida State more attractive, and of course, vice versa. Perception means money. Never forget that in college athletics. That's where it's at. So we're going to talk about that from a broad perspective. And ironically, didn't know this was going to happen, but Ross Dellinger announced today that $200 million from Memphis to offer the Big 12 for conference affiliation in conjunction with their first 5 years, allegedly, they wouldn't take any revenue. How does this kind of stuff impact Florida State, the ACC? It's a big deal. We're going to discuss that in the middle part of the show, and then to finish up, scheduling. Of course, everybody wants to make the playoff and make a run at a national title. How does scheduling work, and how did one Big Ten team make a decision that I find a little bit iffy on what they're doing with their scheduling? We're going to talk about that as well in conjunction with Florida State. But first, perception. I want you to answer down below on the following. Let's just use the Big Ten for this. Pick whichever school that you desire. Doesn't matter to me, because I think most Big Ten fans kind of think alike. The Midwest, where I'm from, it's pretty standard. Do you think they would be happy with Florida State joining the league for football or not? Now, if you want to look at it from an entirety of an athletic standpoint, the entire athletic department, you can comment on that. Just be specific. All for it. But just in football, do you think Big Ten fans would be excited about the Noles joining the league? I think yes, because it would be a new rival. It would open up the gates to more recruiting in the South, which, trust me, Big Ten fans like. And it would just be something different. People like newness when it comes to sports, unusual matchups. If you look at the TV ratings, for instance, it's very common that you will see a game that's like this year, a lot of people talking about LSU going to Clemson, or Texas going to Ohio State, Notre Dame going to Miami, et cetera, et cetera. Those games draw a lot of eyeballs because they don't happen every year. Scarcity matters. And Florida State, in my opinion, would be in a scarcity situation for at least 3-4 years until they played literally every single school in the Big Ten on the road. That includes Washington. That includes UCLA, SC, Oregon, all the way out, Rutgers, Maryland, Penn State, Ohio State, all those games. And while fans, I think, would have a different perception at Ohio State than they would at Rutgers, Maryland, or UCLA or something like that, overall, I think it would be a very favorable look. But let's take a deeper dive. I talked about money to open up the show, and it's still true. That drives the bus. These fans also know that Florida State would give them an opportunity to climb the ladder in terms of perception for the college football playoff. Florida State is a brand. They know realistic fans. By the way, the idiot brigade, and I do mean idiot, that just think, oh, Florida State will never be back. Those are true idiots. There are certain schools, even when they're down, like Florida State was last year, it's a matter of when, not if, they're going to go back up. It's too easy to win at Florida State. Coaches want to come here. And the administration, obviously, if you've looked at any of the recent photographs of the redone Doak Campbell Stadium, they're not playing games. They're trying to win. They just went out and got a lot of coaches, etc. So rational fans, I think they're going to look at Florida State as, hey, this could be a notch on our belt here. If we beat the Noles, especially like in a year that, Oregon played at Florida State or Michigan played at Florida State, if they won that game on the road, that's another chance for you to advance during the regular season to go up in the rankings and eventually make the college football playoff, whether it's in an at-large or you get yourself in the Big Ten title game and eventually win it or not. But if you make the Big Ten title game, you're going to get in. There's so many different ways Florida State would help just from football. I think it's a slam dunk. But that's my perception. What do you think as a Florida State fan that fans that are not Florida State fans think? And if you want to pick the SEC to talk about it, you could fire away with that as well. I don't care which one you want to go with. I just picked the Big Ten randomly because I think it's more fascinating because it's not physically connected to the state of Florida. Like the Big Ten, there's nothing even close. So I find it much more intriguing from that standpoint. Last point on Florida State joining. Big Ten basketball is a big deal. I grew up there. It really matters. Florida State having a viable coach, a younger guy that really wants to bring his alma mater back, that matters. Also having a baseball program that's probably going to be in a super regional like 4 out of 5 years, if not more. Got an elite baseball coach. The program matters. Those things can't hurt Florida State either, not only for the athletic department as a whole, but for football, because it gives you a better chance to get into the Big Ten and out of, quite frankly, the ACC. It matters. You need to look at the totality of what Florida State offers, the administrative support, the alumni support, the history, the coaching, the location. All those things go into it. People that are intelligent know that Florida State is a very valuable asset. It's not the only way to look at it, but financially, it's a big deal. And for these schools, there's a lot of different ways that the consequences really are just going through all the formalities of the paperwork, maybe some kind of buyout or helping Florida State join the league, blah, blah, blah. But the long-term investment to add Florida State to the Big Ten, again, I'm just using them as my example, makes a lot of sense to me. When we come back, I'm going to talk about Memphis. This is wild. Possibly trying to join another league, how that impacts Florida State, and what's kind of next with college football with so many teams doing different things. That is next here on Locked on Seminoles. Ever wish managing your money felt a little bit easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So it's more than just managing your actual money. You're also building an opportunity for wealth. If you're looking to build for something for the future, like your granddaughter's education or just getting another car, maybe it's home improvement, maybe it's something else, but you need a chunk of change to get it done. Efficiency and managing your time well are part of the process, and that's where Monarch Money comes into play. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Hit that like button and that notification bell. I do appreciate it. Now, in case you haven't seen, Ross Dellinger and several other people in the meantime have made comments on X and other platforms that Memphis offered $200 million. I saw one report that said $250 for whatever that's worth to join the Big 12 in conjunction with, this is also key, the first 5 years allegedly coming with no television money. For those of you who are wondering, where's Memphis getting all their money? That is where FedEx is located, and the two are attached at the hip. FedEx is a major sponsor of Memphis athletics and the university, I would assume, as a whole. So let's talk about this for a second. The Big 12, if you think the ACC is not in a good spot, the Big 12 is far worse. They don't have any big brands. They don't have a Clemson, a Miami, or Florida State. They don't. It's just true. Now, on basketball side, they've got Baylor that's good. They've got Oklahoma State that's good. They've got Iowa State that's good. Kansas, obviously, they've won national titles. It's a national power. Kansas State's had its runs. all kinds of stuff going on there. That's great. Houston, obviously, Cincinnati's had good teams over the years. All of these things. But football drives the bus. Why would the Big 12 turn it down? And did they really turn it down, or is this a negotiation? I asked that question for the following reason. I don't see, if you're talking about private equity being a possibility, how you could just throw out the notion of adding Memphis. It's in a viable city for recruiting. It's not that far from Big 12 country. And above all else, $200 million is $200 million. And they don't get any ad revenue, again, allegedly, for the first 5 years, I would have to at least consider it if I was the Big 12 administration. Now, I don't have all the details. I don't know what else Memphis is asking for. But as sayings go, let's talk and see if we can come to an agreement. I think it would be good for the Big 12. And here's where it gets interesting for Florida State. If they join, that means somebody else is moving around doing something different. That means coaches change places. That means recruits change places. That means everything like that is involved. It could impact what the Big Ten does. It could impact, like, I'm sure they've spoken to Big Ten trying to join there as well. They would probably strongly prefer the Big Ten, but I highly doubt that conference would want Memphis. I think that you have to look at anything like this to try to learn from it if you're a Florida State fan, and especially if you're in the Florida State administration. What's going on? What is the trend here? Are we going to lead the ACC in a timely manner? And if yes, how do we do it most efficiently, meaning not spending? Florida State's not in the same boat as Memphis, obviously, but this is a really unique scenario. 200 big ones, and they got turned down? I'm still a little surprised by that. I need to have more context, more detail before I believe they truly were turned down. And I'm doing my little air quotes for those of you listening on audio. I'm not buying that. Florida State is a different deal. Like, if they had the money to pay to get out, in addition, paid the Big Ten too, they'd already be in the Big Ten. They jump on that in 1.2 nanoseconds. But that's not the case, and I don't know why they would. They expect somebody to want them and help them out. It's the opposite of Memphis. But it just shows you how important it is to take a step up to get into a Power 4 conference if you want to play football. The money at that level is just catastrophically different. And for the record, right now the Big Ten has a better TV deal than the SEC does, believe it or not. It is a more lucrative gig for each team each year. So I'm sure Memphis is just looking at this from a long-term perspective. But let's switch that into Florida State. Which one gives you the better long-term perspective and gives not just football, but your athletic department as a whole a little bit better of an opportunity to thrive, meaning baseball, volleyball, whatever? I might surprise some people. I'm going to say Big Ten for two reasons. Number one, I think they will pay a little bit more, and they would be more likely as a league, for political reasons, I'll explain momentarily, it gets a little convoluted here, to help them get out of the ACC agreement. It's a new territory for them. Like, the SEC already has Florida in the Florida footprint. There is nothing like that for the Big Ten. So the state of Florida, obviously you get that, and it's, 20 minutes, 30 minutes from the Georgia border, from Doak Campbell Stadium. They know that would be a viable option. It's a lot more eyeballs. I think they would be willing to help Florida State a lot more than the SEC, where many of the members, I can tell you, they may not say it publicly, will vehemently not want Florida State to wear that SEC logo because of recruiting. All the coaches will unanimously vote against Florida State because they don't want to recruit against Florida State if they have the SEC logo. They know that would be bad for them. Now, the administrators who get the actual vote will look at it differently because they want Florida State in there, again, for the same thing, add revenue. But nonetheless, I think the Big Ten would be more apt to help Florida State get in. Just my opinion. And if you want to comment on that, by all means, we can certainly do that as well. But overall, I think that this is a debate we're going to hear more about as we get closer to the college football season. And once we're in, if Florida State starts winning again like they should, you're going to hear more talk about this. All the little reasons that you have an uptick or a downtick are related to wins and losses and how you perform. So this will be a topic again later on this season. Speaking of and winning, part of that is scheduling. There's a big question that's crossed my mind based on the school I went to and what their decision was. It's a Big Ten school. We're going to talk about that here in a second, but they made a rather questionable decision on how they want to schedule moving forward. That is next here on Locked on Seminoles. If you're going to schedule to make the playoff, there's multiple ways to look at that. You can go out and play a schedule like Bowden used to play in the 80s when he had schedules like road games only, Ohio State, LSU, Notre Dame, stuff like that. Or you could be the team that just plays Patsy City. Florida State's had some games like that over the years, but they've never been a team to shy away without a conference scheduling. Notre Dame, Florida, those are just a couple of the examples. But even when they weren't in the same league like they are now, they used to play Miami when they weren't in the same league because Miami was in the Big East. Florida State was either an independent in the ACC, etc. These are different times. A lot of schools aren't going with that approach that Bobby Bowden certainly loved. Not at all. They're trying to take the easy road. So before I say any further on who the school is and what they did, would you prefer Florida State play a challenging schedule or anything out of conference in the ACC? Obviously, you get a conference league. Would you prefer the Noles play a schedule that, quite frankly, it's going to give them 3-4 wins outside the league? The East Tennessee States, Mercers, those kind of teams. What is your approach and why? If you comment down below, I want to know why you think the way that you do. So here's the school and here's the situation. Indiana, where I went to school, is dropping a series. I don't know which year it is. It's coming up fairly soon, next 5 years. A home and home with Virginia. Virginia. Like, they're not exactly the giant slayers of the world. Virginia. The school they're allegedly going to pick up is Austin Peay. Really? Come on, man. That's pretty weak. After making the college football playoff, I know they shouldn't just assume they're going to be good enough to go there. Full disclosure, I understand that. But Austin Peay, like, their schedules coming up in Indiana are a complete joke. And if I was a ticket holder, I'd be angry. Like, it is a complete joke. I never want to see Florida State scheduled that way, year in, year out. It's pathetic. And as an Indiana grad, it's embarrassing. I don't understand how teams do that and feel comfortable with it. I'm talking about the administrative side, not the players. I know the players don't want to play that schedule. That's easy. But that's pretty chicken, in my opinion. You have to be able to move up the ladder by at least sometimes playing some of the better teams and leagues. In Virginia, I'm not buying it. And for the record, for those who do not know, head coaches are not the ones that make out these schedules. That's above them. That's in the athletic departments, presidents, etc. Indiana's failing here. After an 11-1 season, they probably could have scheduled a lot of teams and helped their brand more. You got to win some games, man. You got to go on the road and make it happen sometimes against quality competition. Who knew? Indiana's taken the softer side of this, and I wish they would not. As it relates to Florida State, I will be surprised if the Noles ever have a schedule again where their three teams are like Mercer, Stephen F. Austin, and then maybe a MAC team or a Sun Belt team like Georgia State. I just don't think that's going to happen. Florida State was built on playing tough games, home and away, and even neutral site. Why in the world would they change that up? It's been successful to this point, all those years of winning. Recruits liked what they did. They brought in more players. Come on down. You want to be exposed to all the scouts, the big games, come to Florida State. I think it's an easy sell. Yeah, you're going to lose some of those games. But overall, as a brand and in your pocketbook, we're eyeballs. We've been talking about it throughout this pod. It's a big way to win, man. You're not going to have an easy road every year, regardless in your conference. Again, I totally understand. but you have to be able to play teams outside your league and do it willingly across the board. If you don't, who are you? Like if Florida State called up UF and said, we'd like to play you, but only 4 out of 10 years. Really? I could never see, I don't think Florida would do that to Florida State either, but I never see Florida State doing that. Just my opinion. So take it for what it's worth. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Please like and subscribe and share this podcast. We will see you again soon here on Locked On Seminoles.